Blog Talk Radio.
Starting now.
Live from Washington, D.C., it's Quintessential Listening, Poetry Online Radio. QLPOR, as it's widely known, features a bevy of poets, spoken word artists, and live poetry readings with best-selling authors. Your host is Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram.
Hello, everyone. My guest hails from the beautiful country of Ireland. Gordon Ferris is his name. He's an award-winning poet. He's now branched out into writing short stories. His first collection of short stories, Echoes, was released today. Greetings, Gordon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm quite well. Congratulations, my friend. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let's begin. I really want to know, how did you get started writing short stories?
I've been writing short stories a long time even before I got published, you know. I had my first short story published in about 2014, you know. Mm-hmm. And I've had about 25 published since, you know.
Oh, wow.
But I was writing them a long time before that. Now, I never had the confidence to submit them anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know? And then it was the same with the poetry. You know, I've been writing poetry a long time beforehand, before I got published. And when I did, the first thing I ever got published, I didn't even submit it myself. It was actually Rebecca Kennedy that submitted it for me, on my behalf. You know, mm-hmm. It was accepted, and I didn't even know I had submitted it.
Wow. You know, what do you view as being the biggest difference between writing short stories and writing poetry?
Well, they're very similar. You know, I'd say poetry now is more of a trying to define something that you can't understand, you know, or it's an experience or an emotion that you have that you don't quite understand, you know. Mm-hmm. So where short stories are, they're like they're like a diary, you know, of your everyday life, you know, of everything that you can see, you know.
Right. Wow. All right. Now, you've written a book, Echoes. First, tell me about the title. Tell me about the title.
Echoes is Echoes kind of came up because that's kind of what the stories are about. They're echoes from my whole history, you know. So echoes from different stages of the last years, you know.
Right. So you're thinking about your life in general, and that inspired you to write the book, to put the collection together?
Yeah, well, the book is fiction, first of all, you know. It's a toned down version of my life, you know. Because to be honest with you, if I told you the truth about my life, nobody would believe it. You know?
All right. All right. So as you think about what you've written, what are some of the predominant themes in the book? What do you write about, my friend?
I'd say the predominant themes in it is like when the book is set is back in the early 70s. I'd say it's how women were treated, you know, mm-hmm. how men were reared to be the dominant species here, like, and how women were treated very badly. They were subservient to men, and that was very wrong, you know. So I hope that I got that point across, you know. Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you view as being a predominant theme?
It's how a lot of people had their decisions made for them, especially about education. It was nobody's fault. It was just the circumstances. If people couldn't afford to send the kids on, they had to leave school at 14 or 15 to bring a wage into the house.
So being a young man growing up in Ireland was potentially fraught with difficulty sometimes.
Oh, it was, yeah. You had very limited prospects, especially if you're a working class man.
Right.
You had very little option to go to university, no matter how intelligent you were. If your family couldn't afford to send you, you weren't sent.
Well, without further ado, everyone, here's Gordon Ferris, and he will be joined by Simon Ferris and Rebecca Kennedy. Gordon, you're on.
Okay, right. I'm going to start by reading a few poems. The first poem is called Putting the Words Down. All I ever wanted is to put words on paper, but life got in the way because love made my day, because a bigger love came along and joyously blocked my way. I envisaged the dilemma of Pandora, imaginings beyond her wildest temptation to open the wandering jar. Her expectant prize, uncertainty, darker than our past, was bright. And this is called White Lies. When you lie and walk away, it looks like there are no consequences for that lie. But when you walk away, does your warmth turn into ice? Are your eyes expressionless? Does your truth ooze forth from your pores, bulging, bursting, to get out into the world? And now I'm going to read a story from my collection, Echoes. It's called Silent Thoughts. This story is the main character. Geordie is after is staying with his sister's house where he's babysitting for the weekend, and he's on his own at the end of the night after his sister and brother are gone out, and he's left babysitting the daughter Dora. Silence. With the volume of the TV turned down, there was silence. At last, time to think. But for Dora sleeping upstairs, I was alone. The first thing on the agenda is the fridge. Check out the fridge. All unhealthy foods must be removed and consumed. It's for my big sister's benefit. She's trying to lose weight after giving birth 10 months ago. Nothing to do with my having an extremely sweet tooth and being greedy and not wanting to share. It's purely an altruistic act on my behalf for the benefit of those who live in this house. Thank God Dora doesn't eat solid yet. I would feel compelled to bring her down and share these delights with her. But she's not eating solid yet, and she's not getting any. My feet up now with food resting on my chest, the TV down low, being ignored for now. In all this distraction of my usual Friday, I was forgetting the fact that it had been my last day at school. It felt no different, no sudden feeling or anything changed, or priorities changed, or being laden down with sudden responsibility. No suddenly waking up and feeling like a man with a fully grown beard and being wise. I had a little bit of doubt in the back of my mind as to if I was making the right decision in finishing school. I could change my mind if I wanted to. I had until September. That's provided I passed my intercert. I thought I had done better than I had expected. So maybe I could surprise everybody. I may put those thoughts in the back of my mind until September. Start looking for a summer job on Monday. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. My attention now was drawn to the marriage photo of Maeve and Dave. I remember their reception, my first experience of an adult event involving alcohol. I remember them dating. There had been one or two boyfriends before Dave, but none lasted. Dave soon became a regular feature around the house. I had good memories of Maeve growing up. She looked after me as a child and seemed to like to take me out for the day, out from under my mom's feet, she used to say. My ma struggled to hold down a part-time job and look after all 6 of us, doing almost everything in the house herself. As my 3 sisters got older, they helped a bit, and the older they got, they resented having to do all the chores in the house, while myself and my older and younger brother did as little as possible. As it turned out, Maeve took a shine to me. I used to take me to all sorts of places. I remember when I was about 10, she got a job at Telly Rentals, and every Thursday after getting paid, she would bring me home loads of sweets bought in Woolworths to her on her way home. On other days, she would bring me to the Savoy Cinema in Collins Street, never to see films that I would like, always to see Elvis Presley films. She was mad about Elvis Presley. Other times in the summer when dry, she would take me on the bus to the zoo or just for a ramble around Phoenix Park. There's one time in particular that sticks out in my mind. She took me and my younger brother and sister to St. Stephen's Grave for a day out. We were a right handful that day, and she just about managed us without losing the plot altogether. I remember her efforts trying not to swear in front of us, using the words flip, and fecker instead of the other F word. She got us chips and 40s on Collins Street, and then we headed across the bridge up the Lear Street and Grafton Street to Stephen's Grave, where we sat on the grass watching the throng of people go by and wondering at the funny talking Americans who end every sentence with, "Everything is just wonderful," wondering what exactly was so wonderful. Near the end of our outing, I don't know how it happened, but somehow I ended up waist high in the pond with a gang of young boys and girls pointing, laughing at me. I was just playing with my 2 siblings, trying to get away from them, when suddenly I realised I was heading for the water and I couldn't stop. Maybe I thought the floating leaves were solid and I could step across them like stones to reach the pretty purple flower that grew in solitary splendour on the other edge of the foliage. Or perhaps I just thought I could walk on water like Jesus. For whatever reason, that's where I ended up. I made my way out as fast as I could and rushed over to where we were sitting. Maeve, embarrassed but staying calm, began gathering our stuff and sat us apart quickly, or as quickly as possible, telling me not to worry about it, and telling me not to worry about it at the same time. The journey across town was hurried down Grafton Street on past Trinity College to Lear Street, and instead of going down Collins Street, we headed down Walter Street to avoid the crowd. Now on our way to get the bus from Abbey Street. Standing self-consciously at the bus stop between the Metro and the Shakespeare pub, where the bus drivers went for their liquid breaks, leaving the doors closed and the passengers standing in the cold and rain. My trousers had dried a bit from the brisk walk across the town, then no longer dripped, leaving a trail of water after me. Eventually, after what seemed like an eternity, the driver emerged from the Metro, humorously getting on and a rush started for the door of the bus. Maeve paid the bus fare, paying just for herself, saying the kids were underage, staring into the driver's eyes with a smile. Driver let her away with it. We got a seat on the long seat inside the door, and before long the bus was full and we were on our way. Relieved to be on the bus and on the way home, I settled into my daydreaming, but I wasn't allowed to for too long, with the ranting of this breathless old bat standing in front of me, sweating in her winter heavy coat, her grey hair emitting droplets of water onto her nose. She moaned about the youth of the day had no manners, letting the lady stand while they took up a seat. Maeve tried to explain to her that she wouldn't appreciate the seat, but the big woman just wouldn't listen, until Maeve, fed up listening to her, made me stand up, saying to her, "There you are now, I tried to tell you, that's that." But before she could finish, the woman cut her off, scolding me for not giving her the seat in the first place. Maeve just told her she's welcome with a grin and winked towards me. I moved out of the woman's sight in the tramwell at the middle door, behind an old woman smoking a speed after. I knew it was a speed after because my dad smoked now. I could see the woman sitting proudly in her seat. Nothing strange yet, but suddenly I could see her shift in her seat. Slight movements at first, gradually showing signs of more discomfort as she realised there was a reason for me not giving her the seat in the first place. I was looking straight into her face when she suddenly looked in my direction with disgust in her eyes, as if I was dirt and she had trodden. I smiled in her direction, and her face seemed to turn purple, and she got up in a rage to depart the bus at glass now. It's getting off already. Wasn't worth your while sitting down, was it? Maeve said with a friendly, sarcastic smile. You know rightly. Yeah, that's right. Getting off already, hardly worth a while. You knew rightly that seat was wet, the woman said. But Maeve said, well, I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. Serves you right, you might listen in future. She went on her way, and before long we were home. I could hear Dave and Maeve's cheerful entrance. Muffled chatter, the held-in laugh that tried not to wake Dora from her peaceful slumber. But it was the smell of the fish and chips that smothered in salt and vinegar that roused me from my reflections. I jumped up from my stretched-out position on the couch and the seated position, expecting their entrance at any minute. They went straight through into the kitchen, trying to wind me up, knowing I'd be sitting up in excited expectation, or maybe I never caused them a thought. I went straight into them, through the adjoining doors. Dave was taking his brown pinstripe jacket off and throwing it on the hooks on the back of the door leading into the hall. Maeve was brushing her wind-tossed blonde hair with a Rotman cigarette stuck in her mouth. Ah, there you are. Thought you were going to bed early. Did Madam wake? Referring to Dora, she said without looking at me, not wanting to spill the ash on the table as she brushed her hair. Not a sound out of her, not after I hit her with the wooden mallet, I said, waiting for the good-humoured telling me they'd kill me if I dared. She asked me if I wanted bread, that if I wanted bread, I could get up off my arse and get it myself. She said this through a mouthful of fish and chips. There was bags of chips and a bit of fish there for me, so I got 2 slices of bachelor and buttered thick to build up my cholesterol for my future heart condition. I joined the two of them in the living room, where we munched in silence while we watched TV, muted, not knowing what we were watching. I remember I reminded the invitation for dinner on Sunday, to which Maeve corrects me. She's coming out for a drink on Sunday. Ma and Dad are going to the club on Sunday, not for dinner yet. Second idiot, you. Oh, I knew that. I was just testing you, I said. There was a few moments of silence, now just the sound of falling and rising jaws in the process of eating. Funny how all pleasurable consumables are bad for your health. Some music on TV, so Dave put some volume on, not too loud, just right, so we could still talk. He asked what time I was going home on Saturday, and if I had time, I could give him a hand the car get fixed. I was secretly delighted to this, but didn't show it. An extra pound in the back pocket, although my mom would go mad if she knew I'd accept the payment for the assistance given to the family. But one thing my dad taught me growing up was never to say no to money, because if you get a reputation for saying no to money, people might stop offering it to you. I'm starting to get tired now. Maeve suggested I go to bed. I needed no second thought. In minutes, I was in bed, relaying the day over in my head. It still hadn't sunk in that this was my last days in school. From now on, it was a new world. I should be leaving all childish things behind me now and start living the life of the long-trousered ones. and then there was blackness. You could call it city. Now, I'm going to hand the mic over to Rebecca. Rebecca Kennedy is going to read a few stories.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Okay, I'm just going to shoot on.
Okay.
Okay, so this is called The Trial of Isabella Whelm, 1693, by Rebecca Kennedy. Sunlight flooded through the windows of the courtroom. The good and honourable Judge Dalloway took his seat, and with him the public parked themselves on the hardwood benches arranged in the gallery. Isabella Whelm sat in the accused box to the immediate right of the judge. The accused, a woman of ill repute in her 30th year, crossed her arms and scowled. Prosecuting barrister Lawrence Breachway took a sip of his honeyed lemon drink before sauntering to the middle of the courtroom. He smoothed back his golden blonde hair and unleashed a glittering smile upon the gallery. Hear ye, he bellowed. We gather here today under the eye of God to try the accused, Miss Isabella Whelm, of entering a compact with the devil and enacting witchcraft upon this good village. The courtroom erupted in shrieks, gasps, and murmurs. Why are you all gasping? Said Isabella, sitting forward. We all know why we're here. You've been queuing outside the door since sunrise. Silence, wench, barked Judge Dalloway. Isabella rolled her eyes and slumped against the back of her seat. How do you answer to the charges against you? Said Barrister Breachway. Innocent of all charges, said Isabella coolly, except throwing the stone at the fat little kid. Clocked him right between the eyes, I did. Harlot, screamed Miss Atkins from the gallery. Her son, a plump boy of 7, beside her massaged the purple lump on his forehead. Innocent, are you? Said Barrister Breachway. Is it not true that you bear the witch's mark? What? Said Isabella. You know, said Barrister Breachway. He glanced at Isabella's bosoms and raised his eyebrow. She recoiled from him and threw her arms over her chest. Barrister Breachway waited for Isabella to take the hint. He looked out at the gallery. The public shook their heads and exchanged looks of bewilderment. Barrister Breachway mumbled something. Pardon? Said Isabella. Said Barrister Breachway, turning beetroot beneath his mop of blonde hair. Nipples. Oh, said Isabella. Yes, I do possess nipples, sir, but on close inspection, I think you'll find that you do too. Judge Dalloway chuckled. It is not a question of possession, but of quantity, snapped Barrister Breachway. Is it not true you have more than the God-given amount? Oh, yes, said Isabella with a sly smile. Unburden me of my garments, and you shall see my many nipples, several of which are pierced. Isabella winked at the gallery. Master Thornbottom suddenly stood up. She cursed me with pox of the genitals. The members of the gallery surrounding Master Thornbottom inched away. Yes, said Master Proctor, taking a stand at the other side of the gallery, and on a completely unrelated note, she also cursed me with the pox of the genitals. Can the record show that Thaddeus Thornbottom is shooting Michael Proctor a most inconspicuous look, said Judge Dalloway. The courtroom stenographer scribbled furiously across her parchment. This trial is ridiculous, said Isabella. My accusers are 2 12-year-old girls pretending to be afflicted with fits and pouts of hysteria. Your point being, said Barrister Breachway. My point is that there's very little to do around here, said Isabella. Perhaps the girls are throwing around accusations of witchcraft, because if it weren't for the twice-a-month hangings, there would be absolutely no fun in this village at all. Barrister Breachway, as head of the local Prayers and Recreation Committee, took this as a personal slight. He was aghast. Miss Whelm, he said, are you insinuating that living according to a strict Puritan lifestyle, attending church service 3 times daily, and whipping yourself whenever you have sinful thoughts is not fun? I am. Are you not aware that the Prayers and Recreation Committee have recently added Bell to the self-flagellation whips? said Barrister Breachway, turning to the gallery with his most charming smile. One reviewer said that if whipping himself was a song, whipping his wife and children was a symphony. I'm aware of the bells, said Isabella defiantly. I'm not a fan. Barrister Breachway bent down and pretended to fix a buckle on his boot so he could wipe away a tear. Master Hawthorne, a gentle, mustachioed man who owned the local apothecary, slowly rose from his bench and coughed. Speak freely, Master Hawthorne, said Judge Dalloway. I doubt the truthfulness of the afflicted girls, said Master Hawthorne. Finally, said Isabella, casting her hands up, someone with a bit of sense about them. My maidservant, said Master Hawthorne, Miss Mary Phillips, displayed the same uncanny behaviour of the afflicted. I find that a good beating cured her of her symptoms permanently. Isabella bit her fist. Even if the afflicted girls are being deceitful, said Master Breachway, that does not mean that Isabella Welland here is not a devotee of witchcraft. It is not true that you are guilty. Is it not true that you were guilty of practicing foolish rituals and superstitions to ward off ill, harm, and evil? Just then, the medical horse and cart rushed by the courthouse, the ringing of its alarm bells spilling through the open windows. The courtroom fell silent as its inhabitants bowed their head and blessed themselves in unison. The only ritual I adhere to, sir, said Isabella, is the smoking of my pipe at the end of a long day. No superstitions or rituals, eh? Said Master Breachway. Answer me this, Miss Welland. Did you or did you not instruct Miss Carter that she was to wash her hands before she prepares meat? Isabella rolled her eyes. That's not a ritual, she said. It's called good hygiene. Good hygiene, said Barrister Breachway with a laugh. The devoted among us need not worry about good hygiene. God will protect us. The members of the gallery nodded at each other in approval. That kind of attitude is exactly why our oldest resident is 47, said Isabella. Barrister Breachway shook his long blonde mane like a majestic lion and prowled the courtroom floor. Several women swooned. Mr. Proctor fanned himself with his Bible. His teeth are the loveliest colour, whispered Miss Carter to Miss Atkins. Black and yellow like sunflowers they are. What say you, said Master Breachway, to the reported sightings of you taking to the skies on Saturdays after nightfall? A ludicrous accusation, said Isabella. I'm always way too smashed on a Saturday night to fly my broom. So you admit it, said Master Breachway. No, I'm simply saying that even if I could do it, I wouldn't fly drunk. It's irresponsible. Right, said Barrister Breachway, wringing his hands. And what say you to the accusations that you can change your appearance at will? Is that a sign of witchcraft? Said Isabella. It's one of the many indicators, said Barrister Breachway. Pardon, said Isabella. I said it's one of the many indicators, said Barrister Breachway. Can you come closer? Asked Isabella. I'm 30, you know. My hearing is starting to go. Barrister Breachway stomped his foot like a petulant child and strode over to the accused box. He leaned in and took a deep breath. I said it's one. A flurry of screams rang out in the courtroom. Isabella had reached forward and ripped the hair off the barrister's head. Assault! Cried the barrister, patting his shining scalp. I have been manhandled. Oh, don't be hysterical, said Isabella, waving around a handful of blonde hair. All I did was free you of this god-awful wig. Order, order, bellowed Judge Dalloway, as he hammered his gavel amidst the public outcry. He's hideous, screeched Miss Carter. A disgusting, hairless creature, proclaimed Mr. Proctor. And how did he become so grotesque in a matter of moments? Said Miss Atkins. Suddenly she gasped and was at her feet. Her index finger pointed directly at Barrister Breachway. Witch, she shrieked. The barrister is the witch who blights our crops and balls our horses. More people began to take a stand, crying out for the barrister to be apprehended. Please, good men and women folk, pleaded Barrister Breachway, I am no witch. Let the court record reflect that Barrister Breachway denies the accusation of witchcraft, said Judge Dalloway. Actually, these are just doodles, said the stenographer, holding out her parchment. I'm illiterate. The judge examined the drawings. They show great talent, said Judge Dalloway. The stenographer blushed. Unhand me, you foul wretches, screamed Barrister Breachway as he was set upon by the public. They wrangled him into a standing position with his hands bound behind his back. Take him to the town square, yelled Mr. Thornbottom. We must examine him for the witch's mark. No, cried Barrister Breachway as he was hoisted out of the courtroom. I have a mole on my back. It's benign. Judge Dalloway, the stenographer, and Isabella remained. Can I go now? Said Isabella. I don't want to miss the walk of shame. It's my favourite part of these trials. Very well, said Judge Dalloway with a flick of his wrist. See you next month, Miss Wells. That's me.
Thank you, Rebecca. No, that was brilliant. Rebecca is also an excellent artist, you know. She does all those sketches that I use as on my Facebook page. And now I'm going to read a few poems, followed by another story. This one is called Petty Complaints. We complain always about the aches that inhabit our everyday, when the children don't live out the ambitions we had for them, instead of just wishing they became good people and having them find happiness. When we do come to bear witness to something that inflicts real heartbreak, we find ourselves begging for those old horrors to return. We can't prepare for what life's sudden dark shadows cast on us, and before we know it, the life you live, the life you know so well and love, is changed forever, is forever gone. And this one is called At 2. When I was small, our house seemed huge. The hall was a skating rink. We slid up and down in our stocking feet. Our adults seemed like gentle giants, smiling, playing our childish games. My heart would leap in my little chest when I would see Dad come home around the corner in his faraway gaze. His eyes would brighten up and his face lit up when he saw my face ignite at his coming home. As a baby, I remember not going to sleep until he came home. I'd fall asleep lying in his chest, drifting off to the sound of his heartbeat. And this is a bit of a mad poem called I Remember. I remember my first day in school wondering why my mother would not give me hot milk on my cornflakes and let me have milky coffee instead of milky tea, or why she forced me to stay with a neighbour while she worked until 3. I remember as a child I looked my granny in the eyes and said, "You must cut the crust off my toast and smother it with jam." She left me with the blacksmith in his forge until 3. Now we're all grown up and it is horrible being an adult. The carousel just keeps turning and we all walk about with doubts about, and there's also the dread possibility of all confirmed. And now I'm going to read another part of Echoes called Crossroads. This is just where the main character George is going out with his pal, and they go to a pub for the first time. Crossroad. On the way out the door, wearing the new Wrangler jeans purchased with my hard-earned money, which I had saved over several weeks and bought in the corners of Capel Street, one of the few shops where they're available in Dublin. School finished now, possibly for good. I have money in my pocket and I'm off to celebrate freedom. A short walk up the street, 5 doors to be exact, past Mrs. Dillon brushing her footpath with a fag in her mouth, mumbling under her breath in my direction. The fag bobbing up and down, stuck to her bottom lip. This brought me to the Ellis household, where my pal Desi Ellis lived. We'd been pals for the past 3 years, not a long time, but me childhood friends seemed to go their own way once primary school finished. Some went off to different schools or in opposite directions, some for better, some for worse. Some of them thought I was too quiet, not tough. Others thought I was too rough and a bad influence. If anything, I was the one who was easily led. As I approached the Ellis house, up the path to the bright sky blue door, a colour that ruined the good mahogany door. Coming from inside, the faint din of music could be heard, a strange fusion of music. Wind instruments, acoustic and electric piano, and electric guitar, all playing different tunes, different styles. From the power one playing jazz and saxophone, another playing God knows what on the electric piano, sounded like scales. From upstairs came the sound of clarinet and the guitar. Somehow there seemed to be classical music from a piano from inside the front door in the hall. To overcome the musical mayhem inside, I had to knock the door harder. I could see a faint figure scurrying through the frosted glass in the door. Opening the door with a genuinely good-natured smile was Mrs. Ellis, a 4'9" bundle of energy, a face lined with life-worn wrinkles. "Oh, the old Segotia, how the hell are you? Are you keeping well? Haven't seen you in ages. Are your mommy keeping well? How's your daddy?" All questions out there without waiting for an answer. Ushering me in, she called Desi's name out loud repeatedly, not realizing he was sitting head bent on the piano stool under the stairs where his piano was positioned, the only place available to put it with his three older brothers, claiming the parlour and the bedroom for their practice. Mrs. Ellis went on into the living room, leaving both of us on our own, turning her head at the door, saying, "Would you want to like some tea? I'm putting the kettle on." "No, we don't want tea," Desi rudely declined for her, cutting her off in the process, dismissing her without even looking at her. This made me feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't dare disrespect my mother like that. It seemed to be normal in this house. The males were very much the masters of this house, with Mrs. Ellis running after them non-stop, out to the shop 70 times a day to get things the boys would take a notion for. Want something for their dinner, then something different that's not in the house for their tea. All a normal routine for Mrs. Ellis. Degrading as it was, Mrs. Ellis seemed to thrive on it. Her whole life appeared to revolve around her 4 men. She could just about be to sit down and relax for the end of the day when one of them would want a cup of tea or a clean shirt for going out for work the next day. She would gladly do it smiling. "Well, are you ready for tonight? This is the big one. Should be a good night," I said, excited at the prospect of letting our hair down and meeting up with the girlfriend. "I am indeed, and maybe we might get served a few flagons of cider in supercream," he replied, rubbing his 2 hands together. He quickly ran upstairs to go to the Jackson / some brute aftershave. Down the stairs in 3 steps, grabbed his denim jacket and out the door up the street with us. Desi shouting, "I'm going out, Ma. See you later." She came out running to the door. "Have you a coat on you? The weather could change." "I'm all right, Ma. Go back in, will you? I'm not bleeding to death." She threw your head and making a fuss, that one. If I spoke to my ma like that, I'd be killed by her, then resurrected by my dad and killed again. Then he would lecture my dead body about how one should worship and obey their mother, always show her respect, no matter what is said. It's only for your own good. You never answer back under any circumstances. At this, we were both startled by Mad Max, the mad guardian at the top of the street, who appeared from nowhere, growling menacingly at us with bare teeth. Desi just made a run at him, shouting, "Fuck off, you fucking idiot, you frightened the shit out of me," at which the dog scampered away to its hiding place behind a hedge at the top of the garden at the top of the street. We walked down Capper Road, approaching the Church of the Annunciation. At this crossroads, we turned off to the left, then the row of shops, and headed down Mellors Road towards Supercrim. "We could always try the off-licence in the Shamrock pub," I said. "What about walking down to the Autobahn pub and trying to get served? Doesn't your brother drink there? He might get us a few pints. Worth a try." What do you think? Not a bad idea. Say he was having the drink in the field at the back of the tech. No need to go there anymore. The field between the church and the tech the tech is where we teenage boys went to drink flagons of cider before we were old enough to get served in pubs. Some of the lads were bad, and if my parents knew I was anywhere near them, they would be smack. That would be me stuck in for the rest of my youth. But at this age, you don't see any danger until it slaps you in the face. The older ones we emulated and want to be like, we would copy them within reason. Some of them just made fun of us. Those who could tell the difference between right and wrong only went so far. One of them, a bright spark in the field that had. Sorry, I better start that section again. One bright spark asked me once in the field what class I had first thing on Monday morning. And like an idiot, I told him I had Miss Falcon for Irish in 1A. That was the first classroom in the main building. At this, he finished off his flagon, went over to 1A, and put the glass bottle through the window. Now you have a free class on Monday, you owe me, he said, running away. Everybody else scarpered in shock. The lad doing this was Vincent McCann, nicknamed the Mentler. He was a few years older than us, and already had developed a serious drink problem. Tragedy waiting to happen. Senseless waste of life. Anyway, before long we were approaching the Audubon pub. We ended up there without having decided where we were going. This is a mystery, blathering and jabbering as we talked about trivial stuff. Before we knew it, we were approaching the door of the pub, telling each other to walk confidently towards the door as if we belonged in this environment. Pretend we are talking, don't show fear, as if we belong in there. Approaching the man in the door, deep down expecting to be turned away, we were shocked and amazed when he said, "Come on ahead, lads," without even looking at us. In the door we strode like two gunslingers entering a saloon. The smoky atmosphere immediately got me, causing me to cough and squint my watery eyes. Chris, my big brother, was over to us just as we were in the door, ushering us both with a tight grip on his arm into a corner. "What are you two those you pricks doing in here? If your ma hears about this, she'll blame me. You know she will." "No, she won't." "How will she find out?" "I won't tell her." "Sure, and I don't know. I didn't know you were here anyway. We heard it was easy to get served, so we thought we'd chance it. Isn't that right?" Desi said. No, I said, nudging him. Desi replied lamely, "No, Chris, we had no idea. Just taking a chance getting a gargle." "Okay, go on in there and I'll get them for you," Chris said, steering us in the direction of the snug at the front of the bar. Inhabiting the snug was an elderly couple, probably in their 70s, maybe 80s, or maybe late 60s. It's very hard to tell. Both happy, smiley people. The woman had one of those expressive faces that always smiles. Even when negativity comes knocking, a smile and a glow, hiding the sadness. The man eyed us suspiciously, nodded hello back to us, and then went back to talking to the woman, ignoring our presence. Chris returned with the 2 pints of Bass, which he unceremoniously planted in front of us. How did I know it was Bass? Well, it was from the big red letters on the side of the glass. "You two behave yourself, right? This is my local. I don't want you two maggots ruining my good name." Chris didn't hang around long, and away he went, back to his buddies at the bar. We sat staring at the 2 pints of mahogany-coloured liquid and each other. I picked up my pint and took as big a gulp, as big as I could take without gagging. I put the glass down with a false smile, hiding a grimace. Desi followed suit with a sour puss on him. As he put the glass down, it was his fault for trying to drink more than me. I noticed the elderly couple, the man's arm, draped around her shoulder, had vanished down her back, while at the same time looking straight into her eyes, whispering things to the woman that made her blush. I looked away quickly, trying not to notice. From the way that you looked away and started talking about football, I knew he had noticed the same. We couldn't react or say anything in the close confines of the snug. We just talked, keeping a straight face. Secretly, I was thinking about how fabulous it was for a couple of that age to still have those amorous feelings for each other, hoping that I could meet someone who would be willing to stick with me through thick and thin, who would look into my eyes the way these two do. I kept those thoughts strictly to myself. Very unmanly to have thoughts like this in the north side of Dublin in 1973. Soon our glasses started to empty, and the thoughts of getting more beer entered our heads. Which one of us was going to go to the bar and order the gargle? That was the question. There was a hatch at the end of the bar into the snug where the elderly man got up and ordered his 2 gold labels and glasses of stout. But that would be a bit chancy. The barman had been able to see us, so we decided to go into the bar and take a chance ourselves. We left the company of the 2 elderly lovers and said good night, to which the 2 replied, "See you, boys." The woman was probably relieved to see the man was probably relieved to see the back of us. Into the bar we went, being assaulted by a thick cloud of cigarette smoke and noise coming from every direction. The TV blaring, Match of the Day, everyone speaking in raised voices, shouting conversations across the bar. To my surprise, Chris returned from came out of the Jacks. "Are you 2 still here? Why didn't you stay in the snug?" Dirty old fucker in there trying to ride his missus, getting embarrassed looking at them. Then she said, "Just going to go up and get 2 more gargles." I added, hoping Chris would offer to get them for us. "Here, I'll go and get them for you, but give me the money. I'm not made of money. Smart ass like you would make me pay to." So up to the bar he went, returning with 2 pints. Chris disappeared and didn't hang around long. We got a free spot to stand at the ledge to put our pints on, just outside the snug. We had a good view all around, without being in too open a place or drawing the attention of the bar staff. We made ourselves at home watching what was left on the football. I was just about to lift my glass to my mouth and take a slug out of the beer when I spotted the elderly woman coming out of the snug, smiling at us. And when she passed, I nearly choked on my drink with the side of her dress caught inside her black cotton knickers. All I can deduce from the vision was that the old lady and the old fella must have been having a right canoodling session, and the man dropping the hat. Daddy was all taking a mouthful of his beer, and he spit it out when he noticed what was happening. We both looked at each other, tight-lipped, and when she was in the loo looking at out of earshot, we burst out laughing. I don't think she ever realised what happened when she returned and she smiled and she said hello. So we finished off our beer and left and headed off to the dance in St. Michael's. And now I have Simon Ferris coming out to read a few poems, is it? Okay. Here we go.
Thank you. I'm just going to read 4 poems. I'll just get straight into it. The first one's called The Tinner's Rabbits. A closed set for 3 years to connect as one, without apology to the eye, more than one within a structure. A topology not logic-free continually. An open road of silk and empire, take all 6 years from Buddhist caves to Christian naves. A meaning of the 2, a trinity without you. 98 years old, a white stone carving in a cellar. Longevity. A broken tenet, deified on painted wood. A ceiling in a synagogue, the holy broken trinity, cyclically. Sick of me, same energy as Ouroboros, eating its own tail. A neurosis of alchemical reviver, either will not fail, eternity. And the second one is called Tuscan Tooth. A crown of narwhal teeth, royal jewels of purpose, a cure from poison venom, snarling snakes to amber dragons, a breath of fire fell prey to ashes, dust-borne branches drawn from smoke, flame-sparked mould, drink from pure, deadliest draught, stilled cure, melancholy to the bone, unbroken lung. The third is called Contour. Skip for joy or to avoid, miss out to bear or roar, to claw and scratch, devour flesh or fear, to jump, to reach a higher rush, to bow, to bend, be led, transformed, then left for dead again to lead, to close a lock or look again, be close, connect, be fresh, be flesh. And the last one is called A Golden Bough. To walk among you, tread anew, all excitement lost. You stumble across this ruin before it can be found. Now or then will pass unto a new fate lost upon us. We trample, crushing all untold, as these broken pieces left to decay once more within. That's it. Thank you. I'm quite a quick reader.
Okay. And now I'm going to read a few poems, starting with Now the Threshold Has Been Breached. Now the threshold has been breached, the shackles crash onto the floor. We are now free to walk barefoot on the concrete. See that all it does is chill the soles of our feet. Stand there and keep nodding like the dog in the dashboard. Do you even know what they're talking about? Maybe you do and it doesn't interest. When this all starts off, you drift off into your own cheerfree land of make-believe where everybody looks perfect without effort, as if this really matters. In a perfect world, we wouldn't notice the shell we wear, or what we have, or where we come from. Our innerness would shine, dim the frivolous trinkets of our display. Tell us that it is okay to be ourselves, and for us all to be free. And this is called The Poor Man's Love. Being in love is like a poor man begging for alms. A man in love sits upright, cup in hand, begging for the subject of his desire to look in his direction. You sit, hand on his arm. He has no nervousness at your touch. It elicits no thoughts or impulses. It feels just natural. You constantly push and encourage him. He has often thought of being with you. In his head, in his imagined conversations with you, there is always found so many reasons why you wouldn't be interested in someone like him. He goes on to think about why he should and deserves to be on his own, convinces himself that being on his own is the best and natural way for him to be. He has no wish to have someone become his possession or for him to become a possession. He prefers seeing the world through his own eyes, not having the view reflected through the lens of another. So he doesn't ask her out. But sometimes he still dreams they could be together, but always has that fear of rejection showing its ugly face. He accepts all that he is. And now I'm going to read another part of the story. It's the main character arriving home after being out with his girlfriend for the day. It's called Preparation. Entering the hall door, I could hear Andy Williams blaring on the stereo. Mother sang along quietly as if embarrassed, even though she was on her own in the living room. As I made my entrance, she turned the knob on the record player to reduce the volume without interrupting her knitting. You're home. You're home on time. I thought you were going to be late. Were you with that one from the south side? She said dismissively. My mother had met Anna before, and I got the impression she didn't like her. I was with Anna. We had a good day. We went to Stephen's Green, I said almost under my breath. Mother lit another Craven A cigarette. Where does she get these strange brands, I wondered. I hope you managed to stay out at the pond in Stephen's Green this time, she replied, glancing over her glasses in my direction, referring to a childhood incident when I accidentally walked into the pond thinking I could walk on water. Am I ever going to hear the end of that? So I fell into the pond and made a show of myself going home on the bus and got drenched. That was 10 years ago, and it's still funny after all these years. Did you get something to eat when you were out? There's some beef left there, and I can put a plate together for you if you like, she said, shifting in her chair as if to get up, but not getting up. No, stay where you are, listening to your crappy music. I'll grab a sandwich. Do you want tea? Stupid question. When do you ever say no to tea? I can give you a crack in the ear still, only I'm nice and comfy here with my Andy serenading me, she distractedly said, as she picked up a stitch in her knitting. Okay, I'll get you your tea. What time are you going to the club tonight? About 9. I think it's early closing tonight, although we might go to Burke's. They open late with a restaurant license, she answered as I went out into the kitchen without replying. I could hear the faint sound of my mother still talking to the absent of me as I put the kettle on and rooted in the fridge for something to eat. I got the beef out, sliced 4 thick slices of bread, rescued 4 bits of already cooked batch loaf, lovingly buttered them, and prepared 2 thick sandwiches, as good as any dinner I'd had. I went back into my mother with her mug of tea, milk and 3 sugars. Where's the biscuits? You can't be giving me tea on its own, can you? You don't be going off leaving me talking to myself like that again, you feckin' idiot, you. I said I was going to get something to eat. You weren't listening, too wrapped up in your shite music, I replied, while going back into the kitchen to get my sandwich and returning instantly to the living room to eat it in comfort. Don't get crumbs on that couch or carpet. If you do, you can get the Hoover out. My mother scolded as I sank into the couch and picked up the Irish Independent newspaper. The headlines read that Nixon is not a crook, or so he says. A major war is breaking out in the Middle East, and Syria and Egypt invaded Israel. I ignore all that and look at the music page. Rory Gallagher playing the stadium. Give me Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck any day. Where's Dad? Strange he's not here, asleep on the sofa, snoring his head off, I asked. Well, he went to the Shamrock this morning with Mr. Kenny and he had to get his head down after dinner. Told me to call him at 7. She replied without looking at me. It was something hard to tell when she was thinking. It was sometimes hard to tell what she was thinking. Sometimes she responded like a person in a trance, in a different world. I often felt like we were a hindrance disturbing her thoughts. She would either give me a sad sigh of resignation when answering her demands, or respond with sudden rage and anger. We kept away from her when she noticed her in this mood. Occasionally, she would snap and lash out with whatever was at her hand, be it a wooden spoon or metal ladle. You could get anywhere from the back of the legs to the head. This very seldom happened. It appeared to me as if the pressure of having to do everything in the house and look after us lot would build up, and she would just explode, blowing off steam. It would be over in seconds, and she would be extremely remorseful, in tears, trying her best to comfort whoever had got the beating. It seemed to happen a lot to me. Maybe it was just a handful, or maybe I was just a little bollocks. I often ended up having a dreadful migraine headache after some of her tantrums, and when the headaches were bad, she would put hot cloth on my forehead, and once for an extremely bad headache that I couldn't shake, she gave me a Valium tablet, which knocked me out until the next afternoon. Most of the time it was relaxing home. Dad was out working most of the time, and we were in and out all day if it was dry. The only time we sat in together was after dark, midweek, watching TV. Occasionally I would be sent to the van shop around the corner to get goodies, and we would watch whatever was on the box that night. Ma would sometimes have her Empress Express, which looked and tasted like licorice all sorts on steroids, without the licorice. She would give us all one each and eat the rest herself. I could hear stirring from upstairs. That's the awful end now. I'll put the kettle on, I said. Good man, get me a refill when you're there, Ma said, holding her empty cup up. I often wondered how she can live in Dublin for 20-odd years and still have that gentle Kilkenny Carlow accent. No trace of Dublin at all. I went back out into the kitchen and put the kettle on. I could hear Dal's electric razor humming from the bathroom, and then I got the aroma of his aftershave, Old Spice, wafting down the carpeted stairs, and the creak of his descending footsteps. His overpowering scent and presence now blocked the doorway into the living room. He seemed to demand attention even before he said anything. He stood fixing his gold cufflinks on the sleeves of his purest white starched shirt. Kettle's just boiled out there, I said. And when I heard you moving down, I put it on, hearing you moving downstairs. Mother said, without batting an eyelid, winking at me when his back was turned, finger to the lips at the same time to hush me up. White lies were allowed per Mother's moral compass, just part of a person's sense of humour. If you don't cause pain or draw blood, it's acceptable. But what if you don't bleed easy and are good at hiding pain? Silence for the merest 2 seconds as Dad raided the fridge, preparing for his tea. No matter what situation or how busy a day it was, Dad always had to get his 4 square meals: breakfast, dinner, tea and supper. He could be only in from work at 8 and have his dinner and tea one after the other. Take a break until 10 or half 10, then have his supper. Obsessed with getting his 4 square meals. He arrived back now with a dinner plate loaded with cold beef, lettuce, eggs, tomatoes, cheese, and a separate plate packed with batch loaf and a huge mug of tea. Are you not having something to eat with that tea, Da? I said. It's bad manners to talk when my mouth is full, son, he said in response, with breadcrumbs splattering all over me. Mother burst out laughing, telling me that'll teach you to try and be a smart ass with the master smart arse himself. Silence again, as the diary of Irish agricultural life, the Reardons, was starting on TV. What shenanigans will be going on with Tom and Mary's household? Will Benji and Batty behave themselves? If Dad keeps eating now, we will find out, unfortunately, I thought. Mother lit another cigarette in the direction of the tea. Mother lit another cigarette, looking in the direction of the TV, with her eyes wandering off into some distant place. Where did she go when she stared into space like that? Was it back to the farm she was reared on, and where we went every summer for the duration of the holidays? Exhaled smoke drifted up towards the ceiling, like lost thoughts escaping her, never to return. As soon as Dad spoke, she snapped out of it. Are you ready? I'm ready to go anytime. And what about you? Are you going like that? Can you not wear slacks instead of those jeans? He said, speaking to both of us, with me getting it last. I just have to go up and change my clothes. They're laid out and ready upstairs. I'll watch this first, Ma said, with me then muttering, what's wrong with what I have on? I wore it out today, on a date already today. They're still clean. Jeans, they're work clothes. You just wear them when you're working on the building site or on the farm, not when you're going out socialising, and especially not when you're entertaining a young lady. Young lady, my arse, Mother says under her breath. No point in talking to you anyway. The younger generation think they know everything. Even with no life experience, you have all the answers, my Dad complained. And the big moral dilemmas of the day, whether to wear slacks or jeans, should I comb my hair to the right or left? I was saying when Mother jumped in, telling me not to answer my father back, and giving me a light clip on the ear. She departed the living room to go upstairs and get dressed. The Reardons' music played as Mother's light, barely audible footsteps could be heard ascending the stairs. Father reached over for the paper from the coffee table. Well, how did your exams go there on Friday? That was your last day in school. They last for now until September. Results will be in August. And how do you think you got on? My dad said. He asked me bluntly. Oh, by the way, I put in a word for you at the pub next door to my place in town. And you have a job to start on Monday next week. Apprentice barman, well paid, always plenty of work in the bar game. You never hear a barman being made redundant. I guess my mind is made up for me then. I'm not going back to school, so the results make no difference, I said, annoyed that I wasn't being given a choice. The assumption that I was going to fail is what hurt deeply. I kept this fact buried. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was only suited for manual labour. Recent new interests and encouragements from the English teacher was relevant. Sure, look, you can work away for the summer, and if by some miracle you get good results in your exams, you can quit and go back to school. No harm, no foul, he said, meaning I was going to fail, so don't build up your hopes. Mother appeared in the doorway with a coat and talcum powder, sent a passing Dad going up the stairs to the toilet. Typical, rushes everybody, then keeps us all waiting. Mother berated him. And now I'm going to finish with a few poems, and that'll be it then, okay? This one is called You Walk. You walk in silence, head lowered to avoid any searching glance. Fingers fidget. You look at the ground as if you can't see where you walk. You push an imaginary strand of hair out of your eyes. You shake when someone speaks to you and nervously answer. Breathe in deeply and go on your way. And this is called Pleasure and Pain Are Sisters. Sometimes when you go after something that makes you feel good, you sacrifice what you know to be right. Because something feels good doesn't mean that it is good. Watch the black cat change in colour before it crosses the path. Or watch the older woman walk under a ladder. Watch the lady, blessed with beauty, make the sign of the cross at the mention of someone in pain. And shed a tear for the stranger who suffers loss. And this is called Who Are You? No One Special. Through the lace curtain I am invisible to the world. I'm a mirror looking out, apart, safe from being judged. From the outside, movement can be seen, sudden movement, heads turning. Does anyone really care who we are, what we say? They just nod, go on their way. Before I walk into a room, I freeze, move on past, pretend to myself I made a mistake. The fear wasn't real. I just walk on around the block, shake off the cobwebs of doubt, and ask, why would I be noticed? No need to plan every word in advance or anticipate the answer. This doesn't make sense. Life is never that predictable. No one is going to notice you. Why would they? Who are you? No one special. And now I'm going to finish with a poem called If. If you loved me as you say you do, sun would disappear behind the grey cloud. Our day would turn into light, our world turn upside down. If you loved me as you say you do, you would show me how to do it right, to cut straight, not across, as you know I should. And that's my reading done. Thank you.
Wow. That was incredible, Gordon.
Thank you,
Gordon
Michael.
Ferris, everyone. I'd like you to do me a favor.
Okay.
All right. I'd like you to read that last poem again. If.
The last one?
Yes.
Okay. It's a that's the first time I ever got requests. Okay, if you love me as you say you do, the sun would disappear behind the greying cloud. Our day would turn into night, our world turn upside down. If you loved me as you say you do, you would show me how to do it right, to cut straight, not across, as you know I should.
Wow. For me, that particular piece encapsulates everything I've heard from you, Simon, and Rebecca, whom I'd like to thank as well. Where do you go from here, Gordon, with your work? What's next for you, my friend?
Excuse me. I hope to try. I've had my first collection of short stories published today, and I hope to try and get a collection of poetry published now. I had intended to try the first. I thought I didn't actually think I would be getting a book of short stories published first. I thought I was going to attempt to get a collection of poems published first. So it worked out back to front the way I had planned it.
All right. Now I must ask, which do you prefer, poetry or short stories?
I love poetry and short stories. I also like plays as well, drama.
Oh, wow.
As well.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's fantastic, my friend. Well, yeah. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank
you,
Simon
Michael,
again.
for having me.
Yeah,
thank
and
you
Rebecca
for having
as well.
me.
Yes, you're more than welcome. So again, everyone, Echoes is available now on Amazon. It was released today. Gordon, as I said earlier, is an award-winning poet. Now he is a superstar short story writer. You're incredible, Gordon, and I'm so glad that I know you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. All right. And as I share with you every time we're together, let poetry or short stories ring somewhere throughout the land. All right. Goodbye.
Quintessential Listening, Poetry Online Radio, is available on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. You can also check out the website at qlpor.com.